I just want to give a quick thanks to the Tier 5 channel members and patrons. Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Sergeant Puma, Cat Crab Lobster, and Duck Machine. Thank you very much for the support. It is much appreciated. Alrighty, on to the dessert. When Deathworlders Meet, Part 1. Written by Andrew's second account. Did it resist? The captain asked. It's a male, and as you already guessed, it's sentient, so no, it didn't resist, replied the ship's veterinarian, a Shalkoth named Ginter from Lbry. Captain Anticton rolled his eyes. He forgave the woman for her poor attitude. Her race of graceful, two-armed, four-legged undulates were a law-abiding sort of people. They could never be comfortable in the exotic animal and slave trade, even when their job was only to keep the merchandise alive and in good health. It was fortuitous, then, that she didn't have much of a choice, being merchandise herself. That wasn't to say that she was for sale, only that she wouldn't be for sale until a better veterinarian came along. A tiny whelp like that, he wouldn't have stood much chance. He must be smarter than he looks, the captain said with a chuckle. Be grateful to it, since you don't need to patch it up. You can have the rest of the day to yourself, unless something comes up. The short fur on her back, brown laced with white, lowered a bit. He wasn't used to seeing her without her hackles up all the time. He wondered if it meant that he was going soft. He'd have to extend her hours tomorrow to make up for it. There is something you should know about him, she added before turning to leave, her tone brighter than normal. He seems like a nice young man, but I think he could have done more harm than you suspect, and he resisted. He's heavily muscled, much more so than even a high-grab world would require, and he's a carnivore. That gave the captain pause. Carnivorous species were a rarity in the universe, and sentient ones were even rarer still. In fact, he couldn't think of a single intelligent species that routinely chose to eat the flesh of other creatures, except for one. Glancing to the deck plates beneath his broad hooves, he thought immediately of the lithe predator lurking in its cells in the bowels of his vessel. A night beast from a Class 11 Deathworld. Its sentience was highly debatable. Captain Anticton ran his thick tongue over his blunt teeth. He didn't think this hairless whelp was anything like that at all. That is not possible, he said. Our newest guest, what did he call himself? Human, said the vet. Named Steve, then. The human has herbivore teeth. I don't see how he could possibly be a carnivore. Up close, he did not display his teeth much, but when he did, I noticed a set of fangs. Very, very small, almost like the rest of his teeth. But there, she pointed to a space between her incisor and molars, 2 on top and 2 at the bottom. Little fangs. Really? He didn't believe her. What else? Don't tell me you didn't notice the way it stares. Its 2 eyes. How do they make you feel? Deeply, instinctively fearful. Creeped out might be a better word. The thing was tiny, chest high, but... And when I was trying to figure out what to feed it, the Ginter continued, I was shocked to discover that fully 1/2 of the rations in its craft by calorie content were comprised of animal protein. She looked sick. He could sympathize. It was one thing to talk about eating flesh in an academic sense, but to actually have seen an animal's carcass dressed for consumption up close. Disgusting. Point taken, he said. I'll be careful around it. That meant that he'd be armed and wouldn't hesitate to shoot it. Novelties like a new species were worth money, but not that much. Not enough to risk his life. He might even just get it for fun. Every time he went on vacation, he spent more money than the creature was probably worth on more pointless and less satisfying pursuits. There is another thing to be wary of, said Antignon, thinking aloud. If he has the significant amount of musculature he doesn't need, he might be some kind of super soldier, engineered to be that way. Maybe, said the vet. There is no way for me to confirm or refute that, but it is certainly a possibility. So, we have a carnivorous super soldier locked in a bunk, not even a cell, let alone a reinforced cell. That's just fucking great. Add to that the night beast caged in the bilge, and it's a wonder why we're all aren't dead 10 times over already. Well, in fairness, Steven seems really nice, said the vet. Navy, make them fight, chuckled the ship's executive officer. He had walked in to begin his shift while the captain and Ginter had been speaking. He smiled. Maybe. End of chapter. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed.